smoking Joe Frazier, the Hellraiser, raising hell with the flavor, terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan, swinging through your town like your neighborhood Spider-Man. So tick tock and keep ticking, while I get you flipping off the shit I'm kicking. The Lone Ranger, cold red, danger, deep in the dark with the art to rip the charts apart. The vandal, too hot to handle your battle. You're saying goodbye like Devin Campbell. Roughneck, Inspector Dex on the set. The rebel, I make more noise than heavy metal.
The way I make the crowd go wild. Sit back, relax, won't smile. Ray got it going on, pal. Call me the rap assassinator. Rhymes rugged and built like Schwarzenegger. And I'ma get mad deep like a threat. Blow up your project, then take all your assets. Cause I came to shake the frame in half with the thoughts that bomb like math. So if you wanna try to flip, yo,
welcome to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and we have arrived at yet another Friday in the continuing saga that is America. Are we in the final season of America, Andy? Who can say? Who can say? Was it, like always, a 12-part series and we're halfway through? I mean, I guess it is up to all of us as citizens to decide how much longer this series goes on for. But man, what a week, or even what a past 48 hours it's been. A week ago, we were all here together on the Black Pack, and we were talking about racial gerrymandering. We were talking about the work that was being done, or that is being done, by California Black Democrats to help get Prop 50 passed here in the state, in response to Texas attempting to aid and abet the president of the United States in stealing next year's 2016 election. Last week, we were talking about the military invasion of our cities, and a judge's ruling that such actions were in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, which itself says that the military cannot deploy on U.S. soil. And while those conversations are wild enough, and certainly conversations that many of us did not think that we would ever be having in any kind of serious way, where, and just to, I said that, and now, like, these are conversations we shouldn't be having. We shouldn't be having conversations. They seem like where we are. I don't want to call it, normal, because it's not. But it's sort of where we are, right? Having an outrageous conversation about a national racial gerrymandering scheme, right, to steal the elections next year, or having a conversation about a sitting U.S. president declaring war on an American city and sending out memes on his social media to suggest that the military is coming in to an American city, declaring war on American people. So these are outrageous conversations, right? And yet here we are having them. And then this week, we are confronted with another fatal school shooting by a radicalized young person that killed two of his classmates in Colorado, which seems to not be getting enough news coverage at all. We are confronted with the shooting death of a far-right influencer that somehow ended up with bomb threats being made to HBCU campuses, from Virginia to Alabama. More than a half dozen campuses either received threats or were on lockdown because of their proximity to other schools that received threats. And on top of all of that, we have the president announcing the next black city that he's sending troops to. And there's sort of like some weird lottery, right, that he's playing, where he's, announcing or, asserting that people should get ready because they're about to win some kind of prize, right? So last week, he was talking about New Orleans. right? That he, talking about he wanted to go somewhere where the people would ask him to come, right? Where the people would nicely say, "Please come and help us." He wanted to go somewhere where there was a governor that would be more inclined, that would not push back against his, militarization of our cities, and a mayor that wouldn't push back against the occupation of their city. So last week he was talking about New Orleans. We saw Chicago push back forcefully from the governor to the mayor to activists to labor union leaders, push back, and apparently gave them some pause. And so now they've announced that Memphis, Tennessee will be the next city that will have troops deployed. So coming up, we're going to be joined by political strategist Aisha Mills to help us make sense of the absolute tsunami of news that we're facing this week and in the last literally hours. And in the 5 p.m. hour, we're going to be joined by Tennessee State Representative Vincent Dixie to talk about the imminent deployment of National Guard to Memphis, a red state, right? Folks were saying, why doesn't Trump go to a red state? Why is he going to all the blue states? Well, there was sort of a problem with people asking that question, right? And the problem is that there are cities in those red states that are run by black mayors, right? Black cities in those states. And so it sort of doesn't matter. It's not random places being decided here. So we'll talk with State Representative Dixie about this imminent deployment. And then later we'll be joined by Nimrod Chappelle Jr., the president of the Missouri NAACP State Conference, because while we were all talking about racial gerrymandering in Texas and California, attempted to counter that steal of seats, Republicans in Missouri were heeding Trump's call to steal seats in their own state. And today the Missouri State Senate passed a measure that will eliminate the seat of a long-serving black member of Congress from the Kansas City area, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver. So that happened. But when we come forward, we'll be joined by Aisha Mills, who will help us break down the news of the last days and hours. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Black Pack. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind: to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-687-7979. That's 800-687-7979. 800-687-7979.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of black land loss before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
This is the Black Pack. I am Adrianne Shropshire, and I am joined by political strategist Aisha Mills, because there is so much going on, Aisha, that I was like, who can I talk to? Who can I call? Who can I call? Because it's wild out here. How are you? And thank you for joining.
It is lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, yes, there are so many things that have happened. I'm glad to get to chat with you about them.
So I want to start. I mean, obviously, the topic to start with, right, is the killing of the co-founder of Turning Point USA, sort of a leading far-right voice, Charlie Kirk, and which was a shocking, event. I think everyone would agree with that. It has spawned any number of conversations coming out of his death, not the least of which was sort of the immediate aftermath, where there was a leap to assumptions about who was responsible, with zero evidence. Folks were on there blaming on social media, right, on mainstream, on cable news, sort of blaming everyone, right, and with rhetoric that, I think on the one side we had Democrats of all stripes sort of calling for calm and, denouncing the violence. And then on the other side, you had even the president of the United States essentially, declaring retribution would be had, right? And so I just your thoughts on kind of where we are in our politics, and I guess we've been here for a minute, right? So we're not going to act like it's new. But your thoughts on our politics, where the difference is so stark, and that the immediate leap on the right to blame whatever it is they call the left. I'm not even sure who they're talking about when they say that, but apparently it's a useful term for them. But just your thoughts on where we are, where it is so fraught.
Yeah, I mean, you just really laid it out there. Like, look, the hypocrisy of the right, which used to be fringe. You remember, Adrianne? It used to be a fringe right wing that was so incensed by nothing, frankly, that was threatening. I remember back during the Sarah Palin era, when Sarah Palin kind of started to stoke this craziness and put out those crosshairs with her PAC that said, we've got these Democrats in the crosshairs, and then poor Congresswoman Gabby Giffords gets shot. Right. No responsibility for the way that rhetoric actually incites some people to violence. And here we are. So much has gone on in the last 15 years. And you have these same people that are trying to turn this into race baiting. I don't know where that came from. Who are trying to turn this into, really trying to turn him into a martyr in a way that is trying to attack people who had nothing to do with this man, and frankly, folks who were his victims. So I think that, this is really what we need to be talking about, is that the political violence that has happened has largely been incited by the right. who has felt emboldened under this president to do harm to people of color, to literally march out there, white supremacist marches in a threatening way to make Black people, brown people, Latino people, everyone feel their wrath might be inevitable. And so, I am most concerned in this moment about as Black people, health and well-being. The trigger warnings that are being thrown out there on Twitter and everywhere else that this is pretty much no holds barred. We're going after everybody. Really gives me pause and makes me fearful. And for those who just watched the documentary on Netflix around Hurricane Katrina, let us not forget that white people have been hunting down Black people in the streets since the beginning of time, but certainly recently. And to get to see that play out, you don't know how folks are going to react to this. So I think that there's a bigger conversation about violence that we need to be having, and who is sparking it and who's inciting it, as opposed to trying to make this guy be a martyr.
Right. And I think that just to wrap around the point that you're making, that in the immediate aftermath, right, without, again, any evidence, no shooter had been found, right? They're looking for someone. They had arrested a couple of people. They ended up letting them go, persons of interest. They ended up letting them go. And then suddenly we're getting threats at HBCUs. As if, right, HBCUs had anyone at an HBCU had anything to do with this, and that's, I think, the kind of the sort of where the rhetoric that incites violence, and particularly in a moment in American history where we see, and even our own intelligence agencies have said that the sort of political violence that we have seen in this country over the last period of time actually has come from the right. And we've seen an increase in hate crimes. And so we're just sort of feeding or fueling the fire that resulted in suddenly kids being locked down, classes being canceled because of threats over this particular shooting that is not even from the very beginning. I don't think anyone was suggesting that the assailant was a Black person.
Well, that's just the thing. What do HBCUs and Black people have at all to do with any of this? Right. And let's keep in mind that there are so many Black people, probably you and certainly I, that have been in the crosshairs of the rhetoric and the violence from this person over the last several years. And so the idea that suddenly there's something happening at HBCUs where students, by the way, are rising up to incite violence, it doesn't make any kind of logical sense. And so I think this is where we are, is we're in a place that doesn't make any logical sense. And the thing that I'm telling everybody, we can talk about the particular moment in time all we want, but what I really want folks who are listening to do is make sure that you are safeguarding yourself. Yeah. We are no longer in a place where we can expect the state to protect us. And what we have to do, given, anarchy can happen in a moment's notice, and tomorrow there could be all kind of mayhem happening in the streets. And how are those of us who are already targeted populations, who are Black, who are queer, women, how are we taking steps to make sure that we safeguard ourselves and our families? I am very much in the way of thinking that liberals, progressives, Black people, we should very much take seriously emergency preparedness in the same way that, frankly, the right has done with their prepper movement since the beginning, of time.
Well, and I think that's also, just the question of community safety comes up also when we know what we were talking earlier. We'll be talking later in the show about the now deployment of troops to Memphis, right? But this larger question of, which is always a question for us, right? This larger question of community safety is even more stark when we've got masked ICE agents running around, when we've got the deployment of federal agents from agencies unknown, right? And obviously the National Guard. And I think that just sort of the heightened sense of, a sense of a feeling of being terrorized, right, in our neighborhoods. And then you have this other piece that suddenly, right, gets thrown into this question about political violence, which Michael Harriot had a great piece. I'm sure you read it, about what you just just raised, which is the history of political violence. And it's, I feel like there's also, this sort of effort to shift narrative. And I want to talk about the free speech part of this shifting of narrative in a second. But there's also this it feels like a narrative emerging about political violence and where it comes from. And I think to your point, it has largely come from the right, even though we've seen on cable news, commentators say without evidence on cable news in the last couple of days, and without pushback, right, that most political violence comes from the right. And that just is not what we've seen in this country. Or we have people saying political violence isn't, this is not who we are. This is not a part of America. And I just, I believe America was birthed in an act of political violence, right? I think that's like this sort of erasing. I think, Abraham Lincoln would like a word, right? I mean, we could name Kennedy, two Kennedys, right? King, this idea that's like Medgar Evers, right? This idea that political violence isn't a part of the fabric of American politics. Do we want it to be? No. But is it a fact that it has been? Yes. And it's also, a fact that there is, a segment of the American political ecosystem that, in fact, would like to use political violence as a strategy, both to obtain and to maintain power. And that's where it feels like this, the rhetoric that we saw come out in the last 2 days, certainly from the Trump regime and others, right? It feels like it is taking us in that direction, right? This sort of use of violence or the threat of violence to again, obtain or maintain control.
Absolutely. I mean, and, I appreciate you breaking down the history of America and how we got here, because this country is absolutely birthed on blood.
Right.
It's birthed on blood. It's birthed on blood of people who, frankly, a certain group of white folks didn't feel like belonged. And they did their best to try to cull the population. I mean, clearly, there was the subjugation of Black people. Here we are again, repeating the same lessons of the past. And the thing that really, gives me pause is, what do we do about it? Mm-hmm. I can tell you that, I'm so grateful that you are on the airwaves and having these conversations boldly. I admit that in the last several months this year that I have reduced my profile, not because I don't have things to say,
right, yeah,
but because I have experienced deep threats.
Right, right.
And as a 5'3" woman who lives in a relatively conservative part of the state now, that there are just unabashed, Frank, let's just say it, Trump trucks driving around, people, yelling out their windows, there's a real sense of fear. And the reason that they are deploying the military to cities that have high minority populations is to absolutely terrorize. It's absolutely what they're doing. It has nothing to do with dealing with crime at all, because there were times, periods in our, in the 90s when some of these cities were experiencing the worst crime ever, and no one was interested in deploying the military there to protect Black people and poor people. Right. But now they're doing this to terrorize us. And so, the idea that there would be some, outpouring of empathy around Kara makes sense for anybody. But where was this outpouring when Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in their homes in Minnesota? Okay, this is literally that happened, and where was the outpouring of support there?
And I want to just to add a couple more points on that. I mean, she was killed, right? State legislator from Minnesota. Her colleague was shot, right, and his wife shot. Miraculous that they survived, by a guy that was literally going door to door hunting Democrats, right, and had a list, right, of 70, I think, folks that he was going after. And that was in the news for what? Aisha, a day?
Yeah. We forgot about it. Literally, they were going around hunting Democrats. I mean, remember Paul Pelosi?
Right.
Nancy Pelosi's husband, someone ran up in his house.
Yes.
And so there's been so much political violence that has happened, and I think there's a lot of cherry picking around who we want to have empathy for. And at the end of the day, what upsets me most is that we are having a conversation about we're not having the right conversation in the media. The real conversation is about the absolute harm and hate that has been spread through the entire movement surrounding this person that is now being even more inflamed as he is being held up as a martyr of some sort. And so that's the piece of it, you know, to your point, that is just being constantly ignored. And we've got to challenge people to do better, because I hear you on, you know, the media isn't necessarily checking folks who come in and who spread propaganda or have, you know, a completely biased view that doesn't really accurately reflect the moment in time. We've got to start challenging people on that for sure.
Right. People just saying any old thing on live television, with no fact checking.
Joke.
Right. No fact checking whatsoever. So I you know, when I initially wanted to have you on, I actually thought, because it was the beginning of the week, right? And so I actually was like, let's have Aisha on, because I want to talk to her about this Ezra Klein op-ed. That was an op-ed basically calling on Democrats to shut down the government, right? And I thought, well, this is interesting, right? Both that you have this sort of, you know, kind of mainstream, I guess, liberal, you know, New York Times columnist essentially saying that the country is at such a dangerous point that the government is so far, you know, out of pocket that the Democrats cannot allow Congress to fund this government. Right. And I thought, well, that's interesting for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which was many people have been saying that. Right. And suddenly Ezra got on the same page with us. Right. But also because, you know, there's this question around what happens at the end of the month when the government runs out of money. So I wanted to have you on for that. And then all of this happened. And then Ezra Klein wrote another piece, right, entitled something to the effect of Charlie Kirk was doing politics right. And it raises for me this question about what is free speech, what is not free speech, why are we talking about it in ways that suggest that hate speech is actually free speech? But I want to talk to you about that when we come forward, and the sort of distortion around the notion of free speech when we come forward. So more with Aisha Mills. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Black Pack.
My pen that rocks from here to Oregon. Here's more again. Catch it like a psycho flashback. I love gats. Rap was a gun. You wouldn't bust back. I come with all types of shapes and sounds. And wherever I lounge is my stomping grounds. I give an order to my peeps across the water to go and snatch up props all around the border.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Broward, Florida Sheriff Gregory Toney, who is black, is firing 8 deputies and disciplining 21 others over a delayed response to a February triple murder in Tamarack.
There is some level of liability on the sergeant's position for some of the orders he gave, and that's why he is gone.
Tony says it took 20 minutes for officers to arrive when it should have been 2, calling it individual incompetence. New Orleans will give Louisiana State University $5 million to reestablish its presence in the city. The council overrode Black Mayor LaToya Cantrell's veto, using Wisner Trust funds once under her control. And several hip-hop artists are under fire after reacting to Charlie Kirk's fatal shooting at Utah Valley University. 50 Cent posted a blurred video of the moment Kirk was shot in the neck, sparking backlash before he deleted it. Styles P denied his own post had anything to do with the incident, saying it was just a collab shout-out. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's a tough drive right now, making your way northbound on the 405. That is loading up out of Culver City, away from the 90. In stretches all the way to the 5 merge into Silmar. Santa Monica, East 10, delays away from just about 20th Street, all the way to the 5 in Boyle Heights. Hawthorne, East 105, loading up from the 405 freeway as you travel ahead to the 605. Both sides of the 605, very busy and slow between the 5 and the 60. It's tough in Anaheim, East 91, from Kramer Glassell all the way to Green River.
See and buy snakes, lizards, turtles, frogs, and more at the Reptile Super Show this weekend, September 13th and 14th at the Anaheim Convention Center. Experience the world's largest reptile expo and sale at this educational family fun event. Info and tickets at reptilesupershow.com.
This This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers are on the road for week 2 of the NFL season. The Rams are at Tennessee on Sunday, 10 a.m. kickoff Pacific time on CBS. The Chargers are in Las Vegas Monday night to take on the Raiders, 7 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. A very important college football game Saturday night for 0-2 UCLA. The Bruins are at home against New Mexico. A loss to New Mexico could make things uncomfortable for Bruins head coach Deshaun Foster, who's only in his second year. The UCLA defense has to do a better job of getting off the field. The Bruins are next to last in the nation in allowing third down conversions. 7 p.m. kickoff on the Big Ten Network. USC is at Purdue Saturday, 12:30 kickoff on CBS. The best HBCU game tomorrow, 2-0 Albany State is at Florida A&M. Florida A&M is looking for their first win. The Rattlers are 0-2 for the first time in 3 years. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah. So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you. Your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at ChooseChangeCA.org. Recover you.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are continuing our conversation with Aisha Mills about the certainly tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk this week, but also all of the fervor that it has created on any number of levels, including, sort of the rush to blame whatever this thing is called, the left, and this sort of, conversation about free speech and what is hate speech, and, is it really free speech, Aisha, when people say things that are factual and then get fired from their jobs? I'm not sure that that's free speech. And I want to just, and maybe I'll just make that point. I mean, folks may have heard that Matthew Dowd, who's a contributor, a political analyst for MSNBC, was fired the other day after saying that Charlie Kirk was divisive and engaged in hateful rhetoric. I'm not sure that I mean, those are facts. And he lost his job for sort of not, I guess he was expected to not say anything about the sort of, environment, right, that Kirk's rhetoric has helped to fuel. But just I want to just talk about this for a second, because I feel like we're seeing, we're in a moment where there's been all of this sort of false, rhetoric around protecting free speech, and then we see things, of course, like Dowd being fired, but also academics coming under fire. I mean, we just saw a professor, I think this week too, maybe, right, losing her job for discussing gender identity in a class that was on gender, and a student ratted her out, right, for wrongthink or whatever, and she lost her job. And so just your thoughts on just, again, I know I asked you this before. I was like, where are we that we're talking about political violence in the most unuseful ways that we could be talking about it, but also this idea that we're all for free speech unless you're saying things that we don't like, and then you get fired.
We are sliding towards authoritarianism. Mm-hmm. Look, there are other countries around the world that we have completely isolated, because we know how harmful it is when a government and when institutions attempt to silence truth, attempt to censor mm-hmm. people from being able to really explain lived experience, try to gaslight and pull wool over the eyes. You're going to believe what you see or what I say.
Right.
We know how harmful that is. We know how bad, the demagoguery is.
Right.
That you have to only lift up the person or the people or the ideology that we tell you to, and if you don't, there's a price to pay. This is not how a democracy is supposed to function, and certainly it's not what free speech actually looks like. Now, free
right.
speech is also not designed to say that I can go out and spread hate
right.
and do harm,
right?
Right. But it is designed to create a society where we should all be able to, one, freedom of the press, which is a whole joke these days as well,
yep.
but we should all be able to have access to information so that we can understand the truth of what's going on, to be able to make decisions about our own lives and how we want to move in our own experiences. And the thing that I, fear so much is that truth is so unavailable, because truth now is just opinion. It's
right.
all opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
It's what someone has decided, and it's what somebody's lies in a TikTok that have gone viral and are moving about, have said, and that's what the people believe. And I think that is where, we really have suffered,
mm-hmm.
because for what it's worth, this president has been successful in completely eroding trust in our institutions, in our elected officials, in our government, and in our media.
Mm-hmm.
So the complete and total assault over the last decade against quote unquote fake news, which is actually
right.
the truth, right? Truth telling.
Right.
Has created a situation where the actual news won't allow truth telling.
Right.
I mean, it's
actual
completely
news.
Insane.
Right.
The actual news,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that we are succumbing to this in institutions that we were supposed to trust, whether it be colleges and universities, where, is where insight and intellect grow, right? It's where innovation happens. It's
right.
where thought expands.
Right.
The fact that we are siphoning off any, kind of common sense is going to, frankly, be doomsday for us as a nation. And I don't know how we bounce back from that.
Right. And it's also, sort of raises this question around political discourse and what is acceptable, right? What is not, what do we not have to accept, right? And I think this is where my question around the Ezra Klein piece comes in about, Charlie Kirk was doing politics right? We've seen other folks say things like, I disagreed with him on some things, right? For me, it raises, well, what did you agree with him on? Because at least could say that, right? So that we can all kind of level set, right? Because we're talking about a person who said things like, black women do not have the processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot, right? A person who said, I can't stand the word empathy, that what you just raised earlier, right? In a way, in the complete opposite way, right? I can't stand the word empathy. I think empathy is a made up new age term, and it does a lot of damage. It is damaging to be empathetic toward other people, I guess. A person who said we made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act of the 1960s, right? A person who said MLK was awful. He's not a good person, right? A person who said if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. I mean, really? LGBTQ is a social contagion. What is the right thing, right? So when someone like Ezra Klein, who has a huge platform, says something like he's doing politics right, what is the right that he is referring to? Or when people say I didn't agree with everything, but he, at least he tried to do open dialogue and he tried to debate. What are we talking about?
We're talking about white privilege. We're talking about white male privilege, sitting behind a keyboard, right, spouting foolishness.
Yeah, you showing your age there. You showing your age talking about a typewriter.
I said typewriter, right? I'm a typewriter. Listen, I have so many conflicted feelings about Ezra Klein. Let's just start there. Mm-hmm. I actually, and this is a conversation for a different day, but I read Abundance, which caused a lot of conversation and consternation earlier this year. And I agreed with a lot of what was said in Abundance. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have, though, with this white privilege narrative that we can end both sides everything, is that it completely erases any accountability for the harm that the hatefulness spews. Right. So would he also believe that the Confederates were doing politics the right way?
Right.
Because they were out there talking to people and stoking up, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Sometimes I just want to say, shut the hell up and say nothing.
Right.
Because the attempting to have a highbrow intellectualizing and doing everybody matters and to, there are not two sides to every coin. Either you are hateful, you are racist, you are violent and absurd in your beliefs, or you're not. There's no way to dress that up. And I think that, it's unfortunate that you have people who sometimes, have really good thought processes and analysis. Mm-hmm. I wonder why there is this constant, and Democrats do this all the time,
sure,
why there's this constant attempt to empathize with horrible actors.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah. Our governor put out a statement saying our governor Gavin Newsom put out a statement saying that we needed to carry forward Charlie Kirk's work. What work is he talking about?
Here's one thing that I agree with. Right. So, the first article that you talked about was, Democrats should shut down the government. Mm-hmm. Because nothing's going to actually go down. So why are we playing this game? Mm-hmm. So a lot of us said this about Chuck Schumer the first go-round with reconciliation and allowing that whole, circus to go down.
Right.
We're not going to stop anything. I mean, look at what happened in Texas, right?
Right.
There's not a way to block anything, shut it down. That's a conversation to be had, and it's interesting from a strategic or tactical standpoint, right?
Right.
Here's the thing, though. There is some truth in you can actually say and do nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
What would happen?
Right.
What would happen if this all, this horrible, horrific shooting went down and liberals said absolutely nothing?
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no reason that anyone is eulogizing, commenting, having an analysis around it, giving thoughts and prayers, could say absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let that silence be deafening in and of itself. I think that there's just a lot of us who are in the sphere of being talkers that feel like we always have to talk. Right. And sometimes, my grandmother used to say, and this is why I haven't said anything about Charlie Kirk really, is that my grandmother used to say that if you don't have anything nice to say nothing at all.
Right.
And sometimes you can say nothing,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I think that is a lesson that,
Right.
frankly, privileged white men don't ever get.
Right.
Because they always feel like they got to have something to say.
Yeah.
And even when it's the wrong thing. And I agree with you that his platform and his audience is just too robust to in any way suggest that a hateful person deserves empathy.
Right. Yeah, I think that there's, obviously, again, it was horrific, right? Political violence in this way should not be something that is a part, or shouldn't be something that's a part of a healthy democracy. But we also shouldn't be required to sanitize people's history. And I think that I feel like that feels like what's happening right now. There's this requirement, right, that people sanitize, sort of the ideology. And I don't think that people have to fall for that. But Aisha, so much more. I actually want to get back around to this question about the original op-ed and kind of what I don't think anyone's talking enough about, and certainly won't be now, right? Which is that we are headed toward a potential government shutdown, maybe, and that's what Ezra Klein's original op-ed was about. So when we come forward, I want to jump into that. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Black Pack.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have cancer. The 3 words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for Black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer. JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever-changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
We are wrapping up our conversation with Aisha Mills, political strategist, and all-around brilliant person. And I wanted to come back, Aisha, to this I feel like we're centering Ezra Klein in this conversation. I really did not mean to do that, but he did write this piece that was compelling on Sunday, I think, last week. And I actually listened to it because I was on the plane, so I didn't read it, but I listened to it, and it was way more dramatic in the listening because it had like music and like mood music. Which maybe made it felt more, a little bit more compelling than it was. But I want to talk about this in two ways. So one is just, sort of your thoughts on the position that he took, which is essentially that, this government is out of control, right? It is military, sending the military into our cities. It is disappearing people off of our streets. It is defunding literally everything that, from education to whatever, and Democrats cannot, and I'm not even sure. I mean, I hate to even say like the government's moving toward authoritarianism at this, because we're there, and I think everyone needs to find a way to accept and embrace that. Like we are in a state of authoritarianism, and so therefore the Democrats cannot fund an authoritarian government, and that was sort of his position. And he sort of said, I came to this. It was not my position during the last continuing resolution spending bill showdown. This is now the position that I have arrived at. So just your thoughts first on sort of that position that he arrived at. Should that be how Democrats are moving in this moment?
Well, let's just remind everybody what we're facing right now. So September 30th, the government is going to run out of money again because, and for the last, forever, I mean, as far back as we can think, pretty much, Adrian,
Yep.
The government has never actually funded itself in a way that they're passing an annual budget the way that it's supposed to be done. So what happens at every September 30th is we get to this place where they kick the can down the road and use the threat of the money running out and the government closing to do some hardcore negotiating with each other, right? Or arm twisting is a better way to say it. It's not really negotiating. It's whoever's in power gets what they want, and they kick everybody else in the throat in order to get what they want, right? It's awful. It's like Hunger Games with the livelihood with our government. Okay, is what they do. That's happening again right now. It happened, earlier in March. I want to say it was that kicked this thing this past March. We just had this fight again. Here is the challenge with the government shutting down. When the government shuts down, the government shuts down. Every single agency shuts down. It means that people are furloughed. All of the employees who work for the government are not getting paid.
Right.
They're just sent home, so nobody can pay their bills. Right. You have all the different things that are closing down. Social Security's not being handed out. I mean, this is just a mess.
Right.
The argument that Democrats made about letting the government stay open is that they made a political calculus that if they let it shut down as Doge was happening and people were already being kicked out of their jobs, then they would somehow be complicit in this like massive layoff and unemployment of the federal government.
Right.
That was foolish. That was so my opinion about this is that they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. And I do not think that the Democrats should in any way enable or participate in the craziness that is what this administration is trying to do. And short of having a real lever, so one of the things that was said in this op-ed is that the Democrats don't have a lever of power to do anything to stop it. So what kind of maneuvering could they do? Well, there's not a lot that they could do. There's a stall tactic. They could shut down the government, right? And so, and figure out the political calculus around that. But there's really nothing that the Dems can do. So coming up with, as Chuck Schumer did in March, some way to convince themselves and their constituents that voting to let the government stay open is noble is just it's a fallacy. It's a fantasy and a fallacy. It's just not true. And I agree that we need to take drastic measures. And if that means that there has to be a threat of a shutdown, then if that's all Democrats have. Now, I have many friends that work in the federal government who are afraid that they're about to lose their jobs any moment because Doge is still doging, by the way.
Yes.
And so I am very sensitive to people not getting a check and having those layoffs too. I don't know politically what, or from a policy perspective, what else the Democrats have at their disposal.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make the point. It was the Senate Democrats and the Senate Democratic leader who made that argument that things will be so bad and it'll all be on the Republicans, and then the Republicans in the Senate will then need to negotiate with us because they're not going to want to lose the midterms, we are nowhere near that in this moment, and it does feel like they don't have a whole lot of choice. But the thing that worries me, or maybe not worry, might be too strong of a word. The thing that's of note to me is that in order for Democrats to actually do something like we're gonna allow the government to shut down, they need to be making a case for why. And I don't see anyone making the case for why, right? And so because it's complicated, and they would have to sell this idea, right, to their base and to the American, maybe not so much their base, right? I think people are kind of with it at this point because they want them to fight, whatever that means. But they would have to make a case to the American people that it is unconscionable, and even un-American, right, to fund this regime. And if they are going to make that case, they would have had to start making that case, right? And so it just makes me wonder, is that really are they really prepared for that? Or are we going to cut deals to fund the government to the end of the year, and then, as Trump, I think, wants, take it up again in January?
Well, that's the plan. I mean, that's what everyone thinks is going to happen, is that they're going to go ahead and just kind of get us through the end of the year. But you actually bring up the most excellent point here, is that the Democrats aren't making a case about anything.
Right.
Right. There isn't a case being made and outlined.
Right.
And so without there being real leadership, whether there's power behind it or not, but a case that's being made about how we need to resist the regime. There are a lot of people, let's remember, earlier this year, a lot of Democrats said, oh, this isn't, we're not going to resist the regime and use that kind of language. In fact, I believe that Hakeem Jeffries folks were saying we're not going to be an opposition party in the way that we think about that in, say, the UK. Well, if you're not going to be an opposition party, then what in the world are you doing right now? Right? Like, what are you doing? So at some point, the Democrats have to decide if, in fact, they're going to be an opposition party to this regime or not, or if they're just going to continue to try to play the game that they've always played and lose at it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a whole party soul searching that has to happen.
Right. And we shall see. I mean, we are September 30th is coming up, right? And so I think that we'll start with, assuming that we'll start to hear more about it. Maybe Democrats will make an argument, but it will be hard for them to make an argument to their base about how they fund a regime that is literally declaring war on American citizens. So with that, Aisha Mills, I want to thank you so much for joining and bringing all your brilliance to this conversation. And I'm going to ask you to come back. Help me break down more complicated news. No, of course, I appreciate it. When we come forward, we're going to talk about, again, the president sending troops into American cities, and especially those run by black folks. We are going to be joined by Tennessee State Representative Vincent Dix when we come forward. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Triumph Church owes Detroit nearly $30,000 in overdue water bills for its Joy Road and East Grand Boulevard locations. Black pastor Solomon Kinlock Jr., now running for mayor, says the costs highlight the burden of rising water fees.
We all owe water. There's actually an email everybody got. If you owe back water, sign up right now for $10.
The church is currently on Detroit's Water and Sewerage Department's Easy Pay plan. Maryland Governor Wes Moore and Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott, both black, are speaking out after bomb threats against state lawmakers. The threats targeting Senate President Bill Ferguson and Speaker Adrianne Jones were deemed non-credible. And former black NBA player Jason Collins is being treated for a brain tumor. His family shared the news through the league, and the Brooklyn Nets posted support. Collins, the first openly gay athlete in a major U.S. sport, played 13 seasons for 7 teams, including 8 with the Nets.